Paper Mario the Origami King has got to be one of the most divisive Mario games, and I think most of the reason why is that it's Paper Mario. It's a series that goes through a midlife crisis almost every time they release a new game. Rarely does it actually feel like they made a sequel to the previous game. Really, these games are only similar by name, and having the signature trait of Mario beating people with hammers. And as you probably already know, it's the inconsistency that caused the reputation of these games to be all over the place. The first game and its sequel, The Thousand Year Door, are considered the golden children. Most see these two as what Paper Mario is supposed to be. Just fun, simplistic RPGs with creative takes on the Mario universe. And its appeal definitely worked on me because Paper Mario 64 is like one of my favorite games of all time. Though I didn't fall in nearly as much love as others did of The Thousand Year Door, lots of things I have talked about in the past prevent me from calling it the GOAT, but it's a very strong sequel nonetheless. But then there was Super Paper Mario, the first to have received fairly mixed reception. I mean, just type Super Paper Mario in Discord gifs. But despite that, I really like this game, and I think the general consensus is at an overall positive, thanks to its legacy status. Fans grew to appreciate it more once the next installment would show them what getting kicked in the balls truly feels. I'll just skip over Sticker Star. I'm sure we're all in agreement that the slander is getting old. To get to the point, this was not what anybody wanted. And Color Splash further proving their commitment to straying away from what made the originals beloved, left the fans of said originals discontent. Although I'm actually quite a fan of Color Splash. If you're new around here, you should know that I am weird. I'm giving all this recap to demonstrate the state of mind that Paper Mario's target audience was in before Origami King's announcement. Because imagine having that revel in you for 4 years since Color Splash, just anticipating that next game, fingers crossed that they make the right step, and then they drop this.
You'll first want to arrange enemies in advantageous positions to turn the tide of battle in your favor.
Also, it's 2020, when the world was made of bricks. We already weren't in the most comfortable situation, so it's no shock that the mix of criticism from the fans of the classics, the excitement from those who didn't mind where the series was, and the timing at which it came out had made Origami King such a controversial game. But you might be wondering what my take is, considering that Paper Mario is one of my favorite series. Initially, I was another one of those hardcore fans of the original trilogy, and those following two titles left a lot to be desired. But as I've mentioned, I eventually embraced Color Splash for what it was, and ended up thinking it was fine in its own right. While I still held the foundation of the series in high regard, I grew to accept where the series was, even if it wasn't my preference. At the end of the day, if Mario is paper, I will lap that up. And man, did I lap the hell out of this. I remember this coming out of nowhere. Nintendo really dropped a trailer on their YouTube channel and then said, "See you in 2 months, bitch." Never had such a short wait time felt excruciatingly long to me. This was at a time when everything felt so unengaging, so playing this game was literally the only thing on my mind for 2 months. But eventually, I had made it to July 27th, Origami King's release date. I went in with excited but also moderate expectations. It'll probably be the best of the newer games, but won't compare to that original trilogy. But after spending roughly 2 weeks playing through the whole thing, somehow it actually didn't meet my expectations. Because I never would have expected this. So yeah, it turns out that I love Paper Mario the Origami King to bits. In fact, this might be my second favorite Paper Mario under the original 64 game. And from realizing how much change has happened between these two games, yet my love for them is comparable, it helped me grow a more open mind with Paper Mario, and I think it's definitely a mindset worth sharing. Ever since my initial playthrough, I've been so eager to talk about everything it has to offer, from its environments, its story, characters, mechanics, music, and so on. And now that I have a high enough platform to share my thoughts, and that the game had its 5th birthday recently, I think this is the perfect time to do so. And as a game that's often victim to comparison, I feel like I can only do it justice by extensively reviewing this game from start to finish, to analyze everything it has going for on its own. And when I mean extensive, yeah, you saw the video length, that's code for I'm gonna yap a lot. By the time we're done, you're not gonna want to fold a paper airplane ever again. For those who aren't as familiar with Paper Mario, you might be wondering what makes this game so unlike anything else. First thing I should talk about is the plot, because if you don't know, you are in for a trip. In this game you play as Mario, and he takes the form of paper. Crazy. He and Luigi are dropping by Toad Town for this origami festival, but when we arrive, things seem to look more like DashCon, but we assume everyone's at the castle. And as we drive there and look around these oddly quiet streets of Toad Town, you really get to digest just how amazing these environments are. One of the things that the newer Paper Mario games committed to is the paper part of the title. It was somewhat expressed in the earlier games that the world was arts and crafts, but as the graphical capabilities improved on later consoles, they were able to dive into that concept head first. While some may not not really vibe with the more literal art direction, and prefer when the paper stuff was more subtle. Personally, I disagree. To me, this feels like such a perfect and natural next step of the art style they've been developing throughout these games. I think 64 still has my favorite style, with these dioramas in front of painted backgrounds, but Origami King is a very close second. The attention to detail is immaculate. All the landscapes and architecture are modeled after paper mache, and every object is modeled after how you would create them with paper in the real world. And the potential of a paper-centric universe goes beyond just a look, but also what you can do to your characters. And believe me, were they well aware of that, because not even 5 minutes do we witness what is easily this game's most infamous cutscene. So this was in the opening for that first trailer. Everyone was already caught off guard by the shadow drop, and the first they see of it is this oddly unsettling demeanor of Peach backed with some eerie ambience. No better way for them to tell us right out the gate that we're getting freaky with this one. Another benefit of establishing everything as literal paper is that you can sugarcoat what you normally wouldn't get away with doing, such as gore. One of the funniest things about Origami King to me is that they took this opportunity to feature body horror. The plot revolves around this origami cult who physically folds and contorts paper into being origami, and they stage it like it's the most horrific shit. But they didn't stop there. They knew just how many things you can do to paper that would be horrifying if they were sentient. I just love how brutal and unhinged this game is to its characters. This self-aware horror spoof this game goes for is what I think is one of its most charming qualities. But while we're stuck in the castle dungeons, we save this origami girl trapped in the walls thanks to our obligatory Joy-Con gimmick hands. Her name is Olivia, and a real man does not speak ill of Olivia. She is the most naive, single-celled organism I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. I love how she's assigned as this game's companion who is supposed to be the voice in place of Mario and gives you advice and all that, yet she's clueless to everything around her that isn't origami lore. Sometimes Mario catches onto things sooner than her. It's a really fun dynamic. Once we make it outside, we meet up with Freaky Peach again, and there's a freaky yellow guy next to her. But that's no ordinary freaky yellow guy.
Where everyone will know this is gonna blow your mind. This is the King Ollie Show.
They gave this guy a whole show. After everything he did, the little shit behind all of this is the self-proclaimed King Ollie, who is actually Olivia's brother, and Bowser just be saying whatever's on his mind. He yaps about converting the world to origami and becoming its new ruler, but it's not just talk, because he starts doing shit so crazy they gotta pre-render it. We barely make an escape as Peach's castle is lifted onto a mountain wrapped up in giant streamers, and thus concludes the inciting incident. A pretty strong one if you ask me. I think this opening sets the tone for the game perfectly. It's gonna be weird as hell, with spoofs of horror tropes and plenty of shock value, and I think the following areas of the prologue are a great continuation. It's a lot less bombastic than how first levels in Mario games generally are, because obviously they want to hype you up on this grandiose bing bing wahoo adventure, well, either that or community service, but you don't get that feeling here, with the eerie atmosphere of whispering woods, and the natural ambience of the campsite area, where the background music is only diegetically played through speakers. Oh. You know how in Undertale they make you feel guilty for doing the genocide route? Yeah, it is like that, but 5 times worse. I think they went for this more ambient prologue because the Peach's Castle segment before was pretty hectic, so this serves really well as a window to digest what just happened before the adventure really begins. Gameplay-wise though, I'm not gonna lie, this tutorial section is way too goddamn tutorial. Like, holy shit, Olivia does a whole performance to teach you how to drink water. Oh no, there's 2 groups of enemies, what are we gonna do? Oh, you can do 2 attacks! Crazy! Like, God, imagine her finding out about the Fibonacci sequence. Like, I know this game is for children, but I bet even they could intuitively figure this stuff out. Thankfully, it's made up for what you do in between tutorials, with some neat minigames and witty commentary from the Whispering Trees. And also after nurturing this old tree guy to get him back to his former health, this happens. This game never just says yes or no, it has to be this whole thing. And you know what? I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, I really don't. Let's just forget about that because we have other problems once we return to Toad Town. There's big old paper mache Goombas trashing the place. This is the introduction to the real-time combat with the paper macho soldiers, and it's fine. I don't really find it as engaging as the other kinds of action in this game. It doesn't actively hurt the game either though, it just serves as some nice gameplay variety. We'll talk more about the stuff you can do in Toad Town later, but I will say I really like Toad Town as a hub world. Mostly because I just absolutely adore it when hub worlds evolve throughout the game thanks to your good deeds, and they do that in incredibly here, with not only getting more populated with the toads you rescue, but also the music that starts out empty but gets progressively more vibrant. It's such a delightful way of proving just how much good you're adding to the world that was in the shitter when things began. After catching up with Luigi, now with eyebrows, I just want to shave them off. We now understand our quest. Follow each of the streamers to their source and unravel them so we can get inside Peach's castle. Every Paper Mario game can be dumbed down to the same story structure, go to number of locations to collect number of magic trinkets, but I think this is easily the most unique form it takes, because here you can actually physically see what you're trying to track down across the world, not to mention it's a cool spectacle. So yeah, all this to say that Origami King has a really strong opening, perfectly conveying the sheer amount of tomfoolery and occasional spooks to come in the future. But before we move on to the main adventure, there is one big can of worms I've been dancing around so far, and I think you all know what it is. So let us, shall we say, turn to that right now. Everyone loves the battle system in Origami King, right? Don't you? So the form that enemy encounters have taken has always been pretty inconsistent throughout these games, and has been one of the biggest reasons why there's such a divide. There's nothing wrong with the simple turn-based combat in the first two, so understandably it's pretty frustrating when they feel the need to reinvent the wheel when it was already rolling just fine. I did say I liked Color Splash, but that does not mean I like everything about it. I just cannot get behind that battle system, with messy and sluggish resource management. So you know what? I think making another wheel is warranted this time around, but this has gotta be the weirdest wheel you could have made. I guess you have to at least give him props for that. In case you don't know how it works, it takes place on these rings with all these rows and columns, with you in the middle and the enemies surrounding you. In order to take them all out efficiently, you need to line up the rings so that they're in groups of 4, whether that be in a straight row to be lined up for a jump attack, or in a box formation at the front to whack them with your hammer. And you only have a limited amount of time and movements to line them up. Now, given how this is obviously an even further step away from the original turn-based combat, I think it's fair to be off-put by this, just as long as you give it a fair chance, because I did, and you know what? For some reason I really like this. I remember not being as huge on it in my initial playthroughs. I simply tolerated it and respected it for being unique. But somehow during my replay for this video, something clicked. I was not only enjoying it a lot more, but I think I have a much better understanding of it now. The goal of these ring battles are fundamentally different from the traditional RPG combat. It's not about the turns between the player side and the enemy side, doing as much damage as you can to the wave of enemies, taking the hits from the opposing side, and adapting a new strategy after every turn. Instead, it's simply about taking everybody out in one fell swoop, such as why lining them up just right will give you an attack boost to ensure that will happen. The ideal scenario is that nobody will even have the chance to touch you, and I think it's my desire for that scenario that made me a lot more willing to become a master at these ring puzzles. I mean, wouldn't winning a battle without a scratch make you feel so cool? And I'd say it works on the other end too. Like, failing the puzzle not only makes you feel like a dummy, but without the attack increase and the enemies being disorganized, you might get absolutely curb stomped. The game even gasses you up by giving you a huge coin bonus from both completing the puzzle and taking no damage, which does lead me to a common and understandable ick of Origami King's combat. From winning a battle, you get a bunch of coins, but no experience points, which, you know, is a pretty huge part of an RPG, that feeling of getting stronger and encouraging further carnage. However, I think it's a bit of a misconception to say that there's no growth from doing battles here, because in a way you technically do earn something, being a bunch of coins, and they can lead you to becoming stronger. You see, as you progress further in the game, the enemies get more health, so you can't fully rely on the attack bonus from solving the puzzle. You then have to use stronger weapons you gain access to throughout the game. First a slight upgrade with the shiny boots and shiny hammer, and then you get flashy variants, and finally legendary. And they're the strongest because they use the power of gay people. They are disposable, however. They will break after enough uses and you have to equip a replacement. They give you some freebies around the overworld, but you mostly need to rely on buying them at the shop. And as you can see, the Mushroom Kingdom economy is fucked, so you will need some deep pockets. And while you can find a great amount of them by simply roaming around, you have to win some battles in order to afford everything you want. Trust me, you will feel like Scrooge McDuck with that coin count, but in the late game they will be tearing your wallet apart. So technically, there is an experience system with the battles, it's just a lot more indirect, where they fund your purchase on stronger equipment, ensuring that you'll defeat stronger enemies even after the attack bonus. But with all that hyper analysis aside, simply solving the puzzle is just really fulfilling. They have some real head scratchers in the late game, and I hate to admit that most of the time, I have to slightly cave in and get some assistance. And by that, I mean you can pour in a couple hundred coins to extend your time limit or have the audience hop in and do some of the ring movements for you. This adds a whole other layer of strategy to see if you can maximize profit from battle by not spending any coins on assistance. But when it does come down to paying for it, it adds a lot more tension because you don't want to keep paying for it over and over again, or you'll finish the battle at a net loss. In a way, it's kind of like gambling, but instead of luck, you're betting on your own intelligence. But once you manage to solve such a tricky puzzle without caving in, it is extremely satisfying. You will feel like 200 IQ. With all that said though, it's not a flawless system by any means. It would be better if there were more direct experience points instead of simply giving the player allowance and hoping they don't blow it all on a Toad figurine. And I don't feel encouraged to confront every enemy I see, since I want to use my hard-earned weapons on more eventful battles. And it turns out I was perfectly fine doing that. You can actually stock up on weapons fairly easily. And perhaps the fact that I've had to analyze to this much of a degree in order to show why the ring system is good might be an indication that it's needlessly complicated. The idea is creative, and although they may not have stuck the landing perfectly, it may be harder to appreciate when its ancestors' battles were highly beloved. I think this is really neat. It just took a while to grow on me, and I'm hoping it will grow on you too. Once they start to take you off the leash, you're going to get accustomed to the flow of exploration. If there's one thing you have to give to Origami King, it's the overworld design. This easily has to be the best level design in the series, and really its only competition is 64. I mean, Sticker Star and Color Splash have a level by level structure, and they're enjoyable to varying degrees. Some of the shit Super has in its levels will be spoken as horror stories for generations, and Thousand Year Door, well, I hope you aren't attached to North or South. Here you have massively appealing environments thanks to the art style, with plenty of space to breathe and plenty of things to do. While you're still technically going from point A to B most of the time, they do a great job at not making it feel blatantly so from how expansive they are. I mean, in order to get to Chestnut Valley, you have to jump off a bridge and into the trees below. And that's not to mention how much more open these places get later on. But for now, the first area under the red streamer is quite linear and small. Picnic Road is a simple but really pleasant location. It allows the tone to finally become more positive. It also gives you a great feel of the whole toad rescuing gameplay loop. There are hundreds of toads who got folded into various origami objects across the world, so you gotta give them a good whack to return them to their formal selves. And when I meant hundreds of toads, I meant hundreds of toads, whether you like it or not. Can it get pretty dull that every step of the adventure you're looking at this? Probably, but they are tied to one of the main objectives in each area, that being rescuing the toads. And Bowser's minions have their own dynamic between their paper flat and folded counterparts to tell apart friendly faces to chat with and enemy forces to duke it out with. So just for the sake of keeping this large-scale objective of unfolding civilians simplified and consistent, I think it's best to have every NPC tied to said objective be the same species. And it's not made apparent at first, but there is a narrative reason as to why toads are specifically the main victims. Besides, I don't really mind how similar they all look because each of them offer a funny little quip when you rescue them. I just find it a really satisfying gameplay loop of whacking a piece of origami, getting a nice little jingle with the toad cheering, receiving some cheeky dialogue from them, and repeating. And Picnic Road gets you well accustomed to this cycle with having toad butterflies every few feet. And there's some other tasks to complete that encourage you to explore every centimeter of the world, whether that be patching up holes with confetti, collecting figurines from either locating chests or completing certain challenges, and hitting every question mark block, including invisible ones. This one sucks. You get a little doohickey later that helps you track them down, but that only makes it suck a bit less. The most rare but also most helpful collectible are these max HP hearts. Pretty self-explanatory, but they also increase your base attack. You get them from doing more specific tasks. I think going for full 100% is a bit of a chore, but I always go for max 200 HP, as it's obviously the most beneficial. With both the level design itself and giving the player this whole checklist of things to complete in each of them, it's definitely the most fleshed out the gameplay between the battles has ever felt. But more on the red streamer chapter, it stays fairly simple, but it's not without its fun moments. I like this bit with Monty Mole's auction where you can weasel your way into paying a mere fraction of the original offer. Doing so gives you one of these orbs that you need in order to open up a shrine called the Earth of Elemental Temple. It's set up as this religious place for the Koopas, but you'll slowly start to gather that the whole exhibit is a huge scam. Like, yeah man, give us a small donation and we'll inform you about these holy and sacred rocks. I kinda feel bad for these Koopas. They're getting exploited by this guy with cool sunglasses. We do not claim him. And our last destination is Overlook Tower, a fine dungeon if I do say so myself. I like the gimmick that you're constantly starved of confetti, so you need to find some on each floor so you can patch up the stairs to the next. My only issue is that it's so damn short. It takes like 10 to 15 minutes to get to the top floor. Even then, I still enjoy Overlook Tower a lot, from how each floor has a unique thing going on. From squishing tiny Goombas to avoiding the crosshairs of these colored pencil missiles. Where exactly are these coming from, you ask? Well, duh, a colored pencil case. Idiot. You are in fact not seeing things. The big boss of the red streamer is a giant sentient pack of colored pencils. And his name? Colored Pencils. This writing might be flames. Now, I did say this game's form of enemy encounters took a while for it to grow on me, but the boss battles? Oh, the boss battles. I have been a huge fan since day one. These are so fun. Rather Mario being in the middle of the ring with enemies on the outside, now the boss is in the middle of the ring, and you have to guide yourself from the outside of the ring to attack them. There's various panels on the ring like directional arrows, stat boost, hints, bonus chests, and action panels, which you typically want to end your path with. What makes these boss fights so much more fun than the regular battles is its flexibility. You could just draw a straight line to an action panel, but if the boss has a weak point, you then have to make a path where you can attack them at a certain angle. Or if you don't know what that weak point is, maybe you should go collect the envelope to get a hint. And what if you're running low on health? Wouldn't you want to run across one of those HP hearts? Or how about maximizing the damage dealt by placing both a damage multiplier and a bonus action panel in your route? It's a system that greatly enhances your performance the smarter you think, and in a much more dynamic way than the ring system for regular battles. With those, the game either says you're a genius or a dumbass. Some of the most engaging parts of this whole game is during this pathfinding phase. Like, I literally point at the monitor to help trace the path I created, just because I care that much at creating the most optimal path. I can understand the criticism for the normal ring battles, but I will be in the first line of defense for the boss fights. These are such a great time, and they can't feel complete unless you do these dramatic finishers with the big arms. In Colored Pencil's case, it's demolishing him with his own artillery, and the motion controls really make you feel like Mario. And so Colored Pencils is defeated. Now, without revealing himself as a Mario boomer, he probably thinks Link to the Past is the best game ever made, and get to break apart the red streamer.
Poggers!
Opening up the path to the blue streamer with this cable car to Autumn Mountain. At first we're just chilling out, Olivia being as Olivia as ever, but then we have a chat with our fellow passenger, Bob-omb. Who is a Bob-omb? Who would have known? He's going through his own shit right now, missing his fuse and suffering from amnesia. I love how he's trying to subtly hint to wanting to join them, but not wanting to sound desperate. He does eventually get the message across, and so we get our first partner in the game. And you might be wondering how that works, because both the field and battle environments are much different than the last game that had partners. They more or less behave like the traditional party members in an RPG, with their own stats and abilities. But since this obviously isn't like your average RPG, what ends up happening is that they sort of meet halfway. They still breathe down your neck, or sometimes your ass, out in the overworld and offer their own commentary on stuff happening. But that's about the extent of their similarities. When it comes to field abilities, only one of them actually has them. The rest just sort of hang out, bored as hell, checking the weather app on their phone, and I won't lie, that's a bit disappointing. I'll give an exception in Bob-omb's case. It would be hard to give him an ability when he can't do the one thing Bob-ombs do. I don't really mind how much less partners there are, because I think it gives each individual partner more time to shine. And the same can be said even more with how you only have one partner at a time, with each of them dedicated to a certain area or part of the story. Because I'm gonna be so for real, I don't really care about partners like Paracarry or Flurry, because they're hardly relevant to the story and not that viable in combat. And speaking of combat, Origami King's partners are a tad underwhelming in this regard too. They don't have this whole moveset, just one set attack they automatically do, or don't do, after your attack. It's a shame, but I also get it. Making them behave more like partners from the older games could clash with the new ring stuff. Instead, they act like corrections in case your attacks didn't finish off the wave. And to give credit, they actually did come in clutch quite often. So Origami King ends up having these pseudo-partners, and while I'll always prefer how they were implemented in the first two games, I think their execution in Origami King works perfectly fine given the game's unique mechanics. Anyways, we arrive at Autumn Mountain. Oh my god, it's fall themed? And Place Japan? Jokes aside, this area is top notch. Am I glad they're finally straying away from the grassland and desert syndrome? I mean, the next chapter is a desert, but we'll get there, we'll get there. I think what made this place all the more memorable to me is when I got into my first battle. I was exposed to the grooviest battle music my ears had ever had the pleasure of listening to. The battle theme from the last chapter already went hard, but Origami King does something I love when RPGs do it, which is variations of the battle theme. They all fit the region they're in perfectly with different instruments and tones. Please have this be normalized, because it's really easy for battle music to get grating when you hear it on and off for the whole game. Talking to you, brothership. The field of Autumn Mountain is phenomenal too. So many beautiful set pieces like the big lake, the grass fields, a gorgeous lake-bound temple, and this bridge, Bobby.
Bro, watch your jet. Watch your jet, bro. Watch your jet!
Yeah, don't worry, he didn't actually die. I mean, that would be ridiculous. But they are willing to make a whole sequence where Bobby gets snacked around. Oh yeah, Olivia nicknamed him Bobby, so that's what we're calling him now. Though I like Bombus even more. More on Bobby himself, you'll quickly find him to be the bumbling lazy type, and his lack of usefulness might make him hard to get attached to. But honestly, it's the opposite for me. I really like his chill vibe and dry commentary on things, and the way he weasels out of entering dangerous places is honestly kinda real. I know he doesn't contribute to much, but like, what more can he really do? If anything, we're helping him instead of helping us, which is an interesting reversal of the usual party member dynamic. In short, I just like having a little buddy around. Much like the Earth of Elemental Temple, we have the Water of Elemental Temple. Love how it looks from the lighting from the blue flames, and the architecture reminds me a lot of the Water Temple from Ocarina of Time, which was the only thing I actually liked about it. It's also similar to the Water Temple in the way that it makes me feel like an idiot. Oh my god. This puzzle is for children. I'm so cooked. I'm fucking dying. You can just pay them to solve it for you. There are actually 4 of these temples throughout the adventure, where you challenge these legendary beasts called Velementals. The designs of all of them look really cool. It must have taken some effort to design them within the bounds of paper folding logic. The water one being the first boss that really tries to fuck with you, having whirlpools that wash away panels across rows. Don't worry, the migraines will get worse. Once you beat a Velemental, Olivia can learn the ability to fold into them. They're pretty much glorified obstacle removers, but I don't care. She looks cool as hell as a bird. Also, can we talk about how hyper-realistic this water is? Like, why does it look so good? I think they just wanted to flex. Well, at least we can use the RTX water to fill up this dried up lake, and with the help of a nearby oarsman, we can just kick back and relax as we boat across the Eddy River, with a song number to boot.
Did I mention Fortnite? I like Fortnite. Did I mention Fortnite?
Just kidding, minigame time. The Eddy River Rapids minigame is whatever. Not a fan of how slow and sluggish it is, and I despise getting the trophy for this. Trophies are basically this game's achievements, and most are tied to certain challenges like this one. You gotta collect every coin, and I promise it's not as easy as it sounds. Or maybe I just suck, I don't know. Here it's the destination that really matters, because our last stop for the blue streamer is Shogun Studios, an amusement park themed after feudal Japan. I like this area a lot, and it's not just because Japan. You get to play much better minigames in the Eddy River here, like this ninja star throwing game, and a whole ninja mansion where you have to look for toad cutouts. I especially like the ninja attraction with its puzzles on spatial awareness. Finding all the ninja toads is genuinely tricky. They really troll you with some of these locations. Oh, and there's also a tea house, and get this, it plays a remix of Maple Treeway. Marcus Cart reference, me like. By the way, it is a theme park, so you need to pay admission to get in, but they also have a premium pass where they treat you like royalty. You can do everything for free and get exclusive rewards. I bet it's supposed to be cheeky commentary on the absurdity of premium passes, but like, Nintendo? You do this shit yourself. Things are pretty messed up when we first arrive though, so we do this whole trading quest for the master key to enter the theater. This trading sequence serves as a clever way to explore the theme park without it feeling too on the rails, and you can easily naturally figure out what each person needs and what they'll give you. Like this chain chomp needs to be tamed with a bone, and there's these dry bones who want something to toss around. So you win the throwing star minigame and win a baseball, and think, oh hey, I think this is what those dry bones needed. And so you give them the ball, they give you the bone, and you can feed the dog. It's such a smart way to structure this level. It ends by getting the master key from Luigi so we can go pick up a disguise to get into the theater. Well, goddamn, it's not that funny. Just wait until we show her, like, can I has cheeseburger shit. Finally, we managed to sneak inside Big Show Theater, with the end of the streamer at the top floor. It's a good break from the puzzle solving where you just get to mess up paper mache actors. My favorite is the Wild West shootout. I find it really funny how much they try to make you draw your gun too early. Second is this Broadway romance where you take out a bunch of Koopa goons, and this happens. And And third is a ballet performance that plays a punk remix of Swan Lake, because why not at this point, but none quite compare to the grand finale. So that giant pack of colored pencils we fought in the last chapter, not a one-time gag it turns out. In fact, they are but one of the legion of stationery. King Ollie gave life to a pack of office supplies for them to protect the spool of each streamer and cause trouble in their own special ways. When they were first revealed in the overview trailer, I thought to myself, wow, this is the dumbest shit ever. But you know what? I might as well embrace it. But after playing the game, I think they actually bring some of the strongest creativity in this entire game. They take even further advantage of the paper world by completely vandalizing it. Colored pencils launches pencil missiles and graffitis on the walls. Rubber band binds people up, and the damage that can be done from these office supplies only get way worse. And that's what makes them such genuine threats and worthwhile opponents to defeat. They also foreshadow what stationary tool you'll be facing in that chapter by demonstrating the damage they've done before they make an appearance. Of course, to you and I, there's nothing remotely threatening about a tape dispenser, but once you put yourself in the shoes of a paper person, they're suddenly your worst nightmares, man-made horrors beyond comprehension. That's what makes the Legion of Stationery perfect satire. They can be either hilariously dumb or terrifying depending on what angle you look at them. Their boss fights also have insanely creative gimmicks. In Rubber Band's case, the bands they throw on the ring are part of their HP, so you have to deliberately run into them so they don't get their health back. And with another streamer down and rescuing the hostages, this calls for a celebration. We finally get to see Shogun Studios at its prime. As Bobby watches the fireworks, suddenly all his memories come rushing back. Glad to see his noggin all fixed, but can't help but question why fireworks brought everything back. You know, it's probably nothing. With 2 chapters down, I think I've covered all the basics. You could stop here and have a good idea of whether or not you want to give this game a shot, and I hope I helped convince you so far. However, I did pause here for a reason, because the environment of Origami King takes a dramatic turn in its middle portion, both physically in the game design, but also internally in a few ways. And while that makes me all the more enthusiastic to talk about it, I do encourage that you experience it for yourself first. But if you've already played it, or you don't care about spoilers, then I will continue. Following the yellow streamer leads us through Sweet Paper Valley. Things seem pretty straightforward, which of course means it's not going to be.
Hello, everyone. I'm finally here and about time to...
Holy shit. Look, is this about me missing your last show? Listen, I was kind of busy with my own shit. Also, I don't want to support Square Bowser hate.
That is not Bowser. That is an imposter! Here's what my villainous colleagues have to say about it.
Who approved of this?
Thankfully, she's still alive, but it's not going to be easy to get rid of this rock. We need something stronger than a hammer, something like a pickaxe or an explosive. I don't like where this is going. Mysteriously, Bobby says we need to head back to port in Toad Town. Kinda odd, but you know what? I trust him. This leads to a detour to the Great Sea, which would have been normally reserved for the next chapter. It further sells how unusual this mission is. We're breaking apart the usual chapter structure. The reason why Bobby is taking us here is that we need to pick up an item that he lost in his cruise ship called the Princess Peach. This mini dungeon is great. The silence of the outside and the darkness and disarray of the inside makes you feel effectively disturbed. And the fact that Bobby recognizes this place raises a lot of concern. Whatever accident happened on this ship, it must be connected to his memory loss. It's not all doom and gloom though. I mean, look at all these references. It's the Peach designs from every Paper Mario. And in the same room, Bobby mentions he'd make a cool admiral. They're trying to fuck with you. And I love the build up to the boss of this area. It starts with seeing a tentacle move through the windows. Then we stumble upon a room that has ink everywhere. And just as we're ready to leave, they bust through the windows to yoink Bobby's safe. The monster in question is Paper Macho Gooper Blooper. Nice Sunshine reference, but the fight is decent. Like I said, I'm pretty neutral on Paper Macho fights, but we take care of him no sweat. Like, seriously, it's pretty easy. And Bobby gets his hands on what he says will save Olivia. Still don't know what it is yet, though. On our way back, I should mention that while we were here, Bobby brought up something important about his species. He says that life as a Bob-Bomb is short. Once you detonate, you are gone. And as a species whose life can easily end at any given moment, they value living life to the fullest deeply. Now, you could argue a continuity error, since Bob-Bombs in the past could explode and land back on their feet. However, I should mention that this is Mario. what the fuck is continuity? So I guess the rules for Bob-ombs and specifically Origami King is that their lives will inevitably end by their own explosion. Despite the tragic state of his mortality, he later tells Mario how he didn't let his purpose define him. In fact, he made the most of his time by going on a cruise vacation with all his Bob-omb buddies. Unfortunately, it was that same cruise that got attacked by Goober Blooper, and the accident led to all of his friends sacrificing themselves, with Bobby being the only survivor getting knocked unconscious into the ocean. If the fate of a Bob-omb is to blow up, all they can hope for that it'll be used for good, and that they can make an impact for the better. And with that philosophy in mind, and when it's revealed that the item on that ship was a spare fuse from his old friend, you now realize what Bobby is planning to do. I wish I could recollect my initial reaction here. I think it was such a boiling pot of confusion and shock because this is the last thing I would ever expect to happen. Olivia is excited to be okay at first, but is then confused about where Bobby is and why Mario is struggling to look at her. As she pieces everything together, cries out and storms into the tunnel, and that depressing music kicks in, I was like, oh yeah, I know this feeling. Sad. Being mainly a Mario guy, especially back then when I was a lot more chronically Nintendo, it's been a really long time since a video game gave me such a gut punch. Especially that I was Bobby, someone I was pretty attached to, and in retrospect, he might be one of the most powerfully written Paper Mario characters. A Bob-omb who is aware of the crushing reality of being a walking explosive, and is willing to embrace it if it means helping the people he cares about, even if he has to revisit a place of such overwhelming trauma where he lost all of his friends. He's a character who can easily be overlooked simply because of his bare-bones character design, but if there's anything Bobby proves, it's that appearance does not define a character, it's their actions. He is a Bob-omb, and he was just like every other manufactured Bob-omb, yet his backstory, philosophy, and contributions to the greater narrative hit harder than practically any character from those classic stories. I loved all the unique faces of 64 and Thousand Door as much as or even more than the next guy, but my favorite characters are the ones that have strong personalities and narrative. Grotus has a cool character design, but his motivations are so generic, it's just I want to rule the world. Appealing character design is a great thing to have, but it's not what makes or breaks. And a good amount of Origami King's characters, especially Bobby, are evidence of this. In fact, it's his intentionally basic design that amplifies the message he's trying to say, and because of what he stands for on a meta level, and just adoring him in-game as well, Bobby is, in my opinion, one of the best characters in Paper Mario. Of course, at the end of the day, it's still a Mario game, so a spooky ghost comes out of the rocks and says we need to cheer up Olivia, or he did all of that for nothing. And this solution is just the sweetest thing ever. Even at her lowest, all it takes is a shitpost to cheer her up. And that concludes this rather unprecedented part of the adventure. This wasn't simply made to pull at your heartstrings, but to powerfully express one of Origami King's themes. After all that turmoil, it's only reasonable for the game to tone things down for a while. Holy shit, is that a shoe car? Oh, fuck yeah, I'm in a shoe cart. My friend killed himself 5 minutes ago. This is when the yellow streamer quest truly begins, in the vast scorching sandpaper desert. Like the pun, but honestly I think it's one of the weaker locations. Driving around and ramming into enemies is fun and all, but it's only to fill up the sheer amount of dead space. At least it's somewhat unique with it being stuck in eternal night, because the sun seems to have been removed from the sky, leaving behind a hole. I wonder what could do such a thing. Sniff City is cool as hell though. Love all the neon decoration and party atmosphere, absolutely vibe maxing. The hotel also looks really nice with how it integrates with the ancient architecture with modern decorations. This was definitely the turning point of when Mario Deserts decided to actually be cool. This place is essential to uncovering the mysteries to opening the ancient ruins we need to get to, with the help of our new companion, Professor Toad. He's no Bobby, but I really like him too. He's perpetually doing the DreamWorks face. I also find his fixation on ancient times endearing. He's also the only partner who has a field ability, digging up stuff from the sand. It's thanks to him that we can decipher the text on the hotel mural, but in order to read the rest of it, we need the keys to the master bedroom, which you get from Luigi after freeing him from slavery by playing a goofy-ass Sniff-It game. I am aware how unhinged I just sounded, but that's what happens. I don't know what to tell you. We then need to practice for a dancing ritual to open up the Fire of Elemental Temple. Oh, well, aren't we glad they faded to black? Okay, I was kidding before. What the fuck? Treasure number 69, suspiciously shaped figurine in front of the bed.
You're being inappropriate!
By the way, there's this pool you pass through to get inside the hotel. You'll barely stick around here, but the music that plays here slaps so unbelievably hard. Like, it befuddles me. It's one small room with only optional stuff. Oh, you know what? I haven't talked about the soundtrack yet, have I? I guess I can talk about it while Mario and the gang are having a dance party at the end of every animated movie. So, Paper Mario the Origami King soundtrack is one of the best video game soundtracks I have ever heard. Like, I can't think of any other OST that makes me feel such infectious optimism and hype. Almost every moment of this game, from the laid back and atmospheric to the grander and action-packed, are supported exponentially with such energetic score. The start of what makes it so iconic is the main theme that plays in the title screen and in Toad Town. They really captured the feeling of hope perfectly here, making you feel all the more accomplished as the Toad Town theme evolves after each chapter. It also carries on throughout the rest of the game through a leitmotif. It's not only really catchy, but also flexible to suit different tones and rhythms, as a leitmotif should. I've touched on the battle music before, but it needs to be restated how much of a bop these are, and each variation perfectly fits the environment. The most popular set of tracks in Origami King is definitely the boss themes, specifically the Legion of Stationery. Jesus Christ, they cooked so much flames it burned the whole building down. And it was for office supplies. This feels like an elaborate joke. Like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we wrote the hardest breakdown we've ever written for a tape dispenser? Yeah, and how about a sick-ass disco track with Middle Eastern inspiration? You know, while we're here, let's just create the hardest hitting metal tracks you could ever imagine, just because it would be so funny to give it to a stapler. Whatever made them decide to do this, I am so grateful. These are some of my favorite video game music ever. Don't want to undersell the level music either. Overlook Mountain perfectly encapsulates the beauty of nature. Shogun Studios takes their traditional Japanese instruments and gives it that modern kick. And the music for the Great Sea really amplifies that feeling of freedom and wonder from crossing the ocean. Everything from the cutscenes to the levels to the battles are accompanied with some of the most passionately composed music I've ever heard in a video game. I did consider it to be my all-time favorite soundtrack, but Mario Kart World now exists, so yeah. Anyways, back to the Fire of Elemental Temple. It's like the Fire Temple in Ocarina of Time, where it's more action-focused than the other dungeons. It's short, but relatively exciting, but the Vellumental was probably my least favorite boss in the game. It's just really annoying. I get the idea where you may need to tank damage from the fire wings on the ground to get where you want to go, but ends up being this frustrating balancing act between using the Water Vellumental at the right time without running into too many wings. And the fact that he will fully regenerate if you use the arms too early is both a pain in the ass and a dick. After we get the powers of the Fire Vellumental, we can now activate these Toad statues that will reawaken a Temple of Shrooms, but not before deciphering some riddles to dig up some stones. I like a good treasure hunt, but sadly this part feels too repetitive and sluggish. I just want to cut to the Temple of Shrooms already, because even if desert ruins are a bit of a tired theme, they throw in some special spices here and there. There's some more delightful paper body horror with toads that have holes in their faces. Like I said, the horror elements are tame all things considered, but you gotta admit that this is at least a bit disturbing. Later we find out the guy who's behind all this is really into disco, transforming the place into a nightclub. You'll stumble across some CDs in this temple and have to get them reviewed by Anthony Fantano over here. He only vibes with the disco track, but he doesn't fuck with Heartbeat Skipper. I think that's his worst crime. I would show you the entirety of the Thrills at Night dance scene, but it's too long, so just know its peak. We finally lure him out, and he's revealed to be a hole puncher. Ain't that some neat foreshadowing? His boss fight is a bit too easy, but the batshit insane gimmick more than makes up for it. We get hole punched ourselves, cutting our max HP in half, and we need to go pick up our own body parts on the ring. And just look at those moves. You should pull this off in front of your crush. Once we beat hole punch, everyone gets their faces back, and the sun returns to the sky. And now the slightly interesting desert is now just a boring desert. Long story short, Professor Toad discovers this ancient sea captain named Captain Toad, and he'll help us further investigate the Great Sea. That's unfortunately the end of Professor Toad's story involvement, but it could have been worse. But before we hunt down that next streamer, let's take a break in Toad Town, because I want to quickly go over some of the things you can do here. First is the Musée Champignon.
Ha ha ha!
For completing tasks in the For completing tasks in the levels like saving toads and patching up holes, this nerd will add more stuff in the museum. You can view the different types of origami that toads fold into, and you can listen to the soundtrack, and I'd say it's worth completion for that alone. Well, you know, if YouTube didn't exist. But my favorite exhibit is easily the concept art. I love it when games take you behind the scenes. It shows just how much thought and care was put into crafting this world. I also find the museum itself to be pretty chill. This place where you can take a breather and review your progress to 100%. For more excitement, there's the Battle Lab, where you can practice timing attacks and solving ring puzzles. The ring training game is actually pretty helpful. I would highly recommend this if you're struggling with this stuff. It's also fun trying to beat your own record times. That's about all the notable parts of Toad Town, but I also just like hanging out here, especially seeing it grow in liveliness and hearing that beautiful arrangement of the main theme. Now that Captain Toad got his submarine back from the museum, we can use his sea chart to fully explore the ocean. The Great Sea is fantastic. It has a very large scale, much like Sandpaper Desert, but it's far more committed to its free range. Once you activate the color splash reference in Bonehead Island and clear up the fog, you can explore the whole sea to your heart's content. There are some islands blocked off from aggression, like the Sea Tower or Mushroom Island, only because they're significant points of the story. Otherwise, you can explore whatever island you stumble upon. The islands serve as mini puzzles and challenges, creating this fun cycle of exploring the sea, finding an island, doing a quick challenge, and getting back on the boat to find another island. The primary goal of finding clues to uncover a secret island is also non-linear. You don't even have to go find all the hints on different islands if you already know where it is. The other objective is finding this doorknob for the back door in Mushroom Island, but it doesn't strictly take you down that path. You can work on discovering Diamond Island first if you so wish. I love how much freedom the game gives you in the Great Sea, not to mention how exciting it feels to be traveling the entire ocean. You know, it's like Wind Waker, but actually good. I'm joking. I'm joking. Or am I? We do have to pause our whimsical journey for a moment though, because once we open the backyard of this mysterious house and reconvene with Luigi, we walk down these stairs to find some origami workshop, and Olivia tells us that this was the place where she was created by her brother King Ollie. Upon further investigation, we save this origami craftsman who is trapped inside a wall, who was the one who created King Ollie using this technique called the Fold of Life. Should be self-explanatory what that does. He created him for this Origami Castle he was going to show at the festival, but Ollie quickly turned on him, trapped him in a wall, went on a rampage, ranted about him in his top 10 worst toads.
How dare you? How bloody dare you? There's just nothing positive I can say about these guys!
One thing led to another, and here we are. He really was a hater frame 1. He feels guilt for causing this mess, but Olivia expresses how grateful she is for being brought to life. It's like something good came out of all the bad world-conquering stuff. It's bittersweet, and it reveals an interesting contrast between Ollie and Olivia's mindsets from being given life. Ollie was created to be a king, but acted selfishly and aggressively, and Olivia was created by Ollie to stand beside him, yet she acts with kindness and benevolence. We'll dive into this more as we learn more about Ollie, but keep that thought in the back of your head for a bit. For now, we'll return to the whimsy. Luigi gives us the key for us to open the secret Diamond Island. It's such a surreal location where it's submerged underwater yet emulates the surface world. There's been these angel toad statues across the islands. They're pretty mysterious with how they're connected to the island's trials and all this talk about paradise. They say we must pass their trials 3 of power, wisdom, and courage. What is this a reference to? Let me know in the comments. These are a fun time. The power trial is meh, but the wisdom trial really got the chin rubbing. I had to pull out MS Paint for the logic puzzle, and the courage trial is so over the top I can't help but love it. You gotta grab the rope right before the dishpan falls on you, and when they swap out the dishpan with a thwomp in the last one, it injects the fear of God in you. Once we pass all the trials and obtain the 3 orbs, it's off to the sea tower for us. Oh yeah, the Ice Elemental Temple. Honestly, I sometimes forget that this exists. It kind of feels like it was tacked on to Diamond Island. The Velelemental stuff is getting a bit repetitive at this point, and all the ice puzzles get brought right back in the Sea Tower, so it doesn't feel all that memorable. The Ice Velelemental boss is okay. There's this part at the end where you have to memorize the exact layout of the ring and need to recreate it yourself. And this one sure is a real kicker. I always struggle trying to remember all of that in my head. A real brain teaser this one is. Okay, but let's get to the sea tower for real. And man, do I adore the sea tower. It's a fantastic conclusion to the Great Sea and the Vellumental temples. How it combines puzzles and obstacles from all of them. It has some weaker enemies from those earlier temples, and it's a cool way to show you how much you've grown during this adventure. I do have one problem with the sea tower, and it's a pretty big one. Why is it so goddamn short? Just look at this place from the outside. It reaches the heavens, but there's only 2 floors you actually go inside, and the rest you just ride an elevator through. Boo! Make this feel like an actual gauntlet. With that said, the puzzles that are contained in these few rooms are still fun. Just wanted some more of it, you know? But I can forgive all of it because of the boss. Tape. He is my favorite Legion of Stationery. He has a New Yorker mob boss accent and tendencies. That fake out ending where you break the tape dispenser only to find out that Tape Roll himself is still alive, and the end of the tape sticking out like a pompadour. The gimmick of the rings getting taped together is obnoxious but so hysterical. And once again, the music spewing absolute flames. That aggressive opening and godly breakdown at the end. Tape definitely feels like the most shitposty of them all. Sadly, he's gotta go like the others, but not without one forget about it on his way out. With him taken care of, we destroy the purple streamer, and now only one more remains, which seems to reach up high in the sky. And so we use the magic from the sea tower to ascend into the clouds. And what awaits us is the paradise those statues have been foreshadowing all along. The final main chapter of our adventure takes place in this mystical spa resort in the sky, Shangri Spa. And look, the toads are white, and they have wings, and togas. That's something, right? We might actually get to catch a break here. We get this stamp card and have to fill it out by soaking in all the hot springs. So we can just kick back, have a nice spa day. Not a care in the world. We're gonna witness child murder in 5 minutes. Oddly enough, Kamek is here too. And he catches us up on how Bowser's doing, which is not great. They got jumped again by Origami, and Kamek got these buns mixed around that caused the castle to plummet in the Shangri Spa. By the way, this joke with the 2 buns has amazing payoff. So now they've all been sentenced to labor until they pay off the damages. And these toads are being top tier bastards about it. I can't help but laugh yet also feel really bad. This man charged Kamek with an on-time fee, but now that we're here, Kamek gets to demonstrate why getting into the castle right now is a death wish, being guarded by folded sumo bros. But Bowser Jr. comes flying in to rescue his dad. Hell yeah, you go little dude. Uh-oh. So that's a way of showing us that our next opponent is Scissors. We are so fucked. But since each spa has restorative powers, all we gotta do is soak Bowser Jr. in each of them, and he'll be good as new and we can go fight those sumo bros. As amazingly as this chapter is prepared, this portion is honestly quite hit or miss. First there's the Spring of Jungle Mist. I like how Kamek is always right about where to go because he waits for everyone else to make the wrong choice. The chase scene with the chain chomp is hilarious and a bit terrifying, especially with that one game over scene if you make the wrong path. The other spas though, you just sort of walk there, do a little thing, and mission accomplished. Some of the minions casually ask for a whole year's salary. In fact, most things here are really expensive. The items, the figurines, the badges. Oh my god, I forgot about the badges. I mean, do you want to know why? Because it sucks ass. You know one of the best mechanics in Paper Mario where you pick and choose different buffs and special effects, and with the right combo you can make yourself a powerhouse? Well, in Origami King, they have 3 different types of badges that give you stat boosts, and there are 3 tiers for each of them, bronze, silver, and gold, that you can buy throughout the game. You can equip all 3 different types, your only limitation is choosing 1 tier for each. So like, what's the strategy here? What is the strategic advantage of equipping Silver Time Plus over Gold? Well, that's because these aren't strategic, you're just buying upgrades. There's some other types of badges you can get which are kind of cool, but there's no limit to how many of those you can equip, so it takes away what made the badge system so layered, the decision making. Now it's so mindless. When you buy a thing, you equip it. Congratulations. It feels so half-assed. It's like they were saying, hey, we brought the badges back. Isn't this what you guys wanted? It's dumb, but hey, how about we talk about something dumb but in a good way? In order to get to the last hot spring, the Spring of Rainbows, we have to play the obligatory Paper Mario game show. This time, it's Shy Guys Finish Last. Easily the best game show in the series. It's kind of like Jeopardy where you have to earn points by clearing different tiers of challenges. Most of these are a good time. My favorite is Race in Place. I love seeing them all run along with this goofy ass music. I don't like Bath Math though. because it's math. It ends by tempting you with a bonus sudden death round. You have to remember what a lyric to a song was, and they make the answer pretty obvious, but the pressure can get to you when you need to line up a path for Olivia. And if you mess up, they do this on live television. Once we land the Spring of Rainbows, Bowser Jr. is finally back in his prime. And at this point of the game, as I was fighting the Sumo Bros, thinking it was just an okay fight, I couldn't help but feel that I might have been overhyping this game in my head. Like I have been going over every step of the adventure, talking about all the parts that I like, and highlighting some of the stronger moments, but really, most of the good parts are simply a good time, but nothing cinematic for the most part. And for those who also play this game, you might share the same sentiment. It's just kind of a good time all around. So I was starting to doubt if this game was actually a masterpiece. Maybe it was just a pretty good game, and at the time, I was just happy to have a Paper Mario. But once I got to the Bowser's Castle section of the game, I was like, oh yeah, I remember why I think this game is a masterpiece. It's because the endgame is hype as shit.
Play the fucking music! Play the fucking music! Rise and shine! You silly motherfuckers! Yesterday's steak is today's shit! Which is why you need to keep working harder to get that steak to shit! Now!
For some Paper Mario fans who tried out Origami King, I can imagine it must have been really testing your patience from how much of a contrarian it is, but I promise these last 3 hours of the game will leave you with the best taste in your mouth. We're talking orange Fanta taste. I don't know if I'll be able to fully convey how brilliant the Bowser's Castle sequence is, but here's my best attempt. It starts with us stumbling into a folded soldier banquet. We're totally outnumbered, it's looking so Paper Mario over. But thanks to Kamek's motivational speech from earlier, Bowser's minions get the courage to break free from their manual labor and face their origami counterparts. It's an all-out battle royale between paper and origami. The door to the throne room is locked, so we need to walk through the chaos to Kamek's room where the key is. But if you want to, you can actually help the minions in battle, leading to a ring puzzle where you need to line up the paper characters out of the line of fire. With the electric music, Kamek casually removing every obstacle in his path, the feeling that you have the origami forces cornered, you feel like you're on top of the world. Suddenly, the atmosphere goes from bombastic to eerily silent, and they leave you confused from the tone shift for quite a bit. We get the castle key from who else? Luigi, but as we're about to show it to Olivia, she also vanishes. Whenever I watch someone else play this part, I become the Riddler in that one image. I want it to be known that when I first got to this part, it must have been like 11 PM, even midnight. The vibe was already kinda gloomy. With that context, imagine how I felt when I saw this. Okay, so before it was like funny scary, this is just fucking scary. I don't care what you say. Nothing built up to this at all. These Slendermen come out of nowhere. It's so perfectly staged. Then you gotta escape this hallway with the big guys slipping behind walls. And there's also the little guys that pretend to be in the paintings. I don't like that. I really don't like that. They have this bizarre gimmick in battle where you gotta stack the chain of them into one guy. I still can't get over how cool this rug pull is. The sudden switch from this loud, action-packed climax to genuine surprise horror. And what if I told you it gets even freakier? With the boss fight with Handaconda. And once you get Olivia back during the fight, it decides to be a rock, paper, scissors match between your big-ass hand and his big-ass hand. At this point, I'm not surprised if in the next boss fight you gotta play Soggy Biscuit. We get Olivia back, but there's still a lot of questions to be answered. Like, why are pieces of everyone's corpses on the ground? Well, if you hark back to what we saw earlier in this chapter, you might know the answer. If not, then you will soon behind these doors.
Shut the fuck up!
We're finally face to face with the dual-bladed duelist, Scissors, portrayed as his cocky, fingers up his own ass swordsman. Before we fight him, we need to prove ourselves and defeat a paper macho Buzzy Beetle made out of the body parts of sliced up minions. Once again, not huge on these boss fights, but the shock value is enough of a sell. Like, goddamn, this is quite the creature feature.
Featuring the creature.
As for the actual fight with Scissors, I think this is not only my favorite Paper Mario boss, but one of my favorite bosses of all time. I mean, for starters, it's Paper facing its natural predator. They decide to be merciful at first, covering their own blade as they believe you'll put us on equal footing. But if you mistakenly or are so bold enough to break that cover, no more mercy. That's enough tension as is, but if you want the pinnacle experience, break that shit immediately, because it will take you to a phase where every one of his attacks are instant kill. They will fake you out sometimes, it cuts to black so you won't know if you dodged it for a second. You slip up once, you are dead. Normally, instant kill stuff would be bullshit, but what makes this work so well is the fact that you chose this. This fight's actually pretty easy if you avoid breaking the cover, but ask for a challenge and you shall receive. It's heart racing, blood pumping, you might even piss yourself. Should go without saying at this point, but that theme has you feeling that dread tenfold.
Scissors, you want paper, you know what comes next. Say goodnight, plumber. I will slit your neck.
Oh my god. Scissors, this game is rated E. Mario, what do you have to say about this? An absolutely incredible boss fight that will go down as a time that paper beat scissors. There could not have been a more perfect climax before we unravel the fifth and final streamer. And they do a good job at making it feel more impactful than the other streamers. There's a more triumphant jingle after breaking the streamer, and Olivia starts to get nervous. And I can't really blame her. It can feel really nerve-wracking to finally get to the point that you've been anticipating for so long. But after getting a pep talk from Bowser, she gets back on her feet. And now it's time to plan our assault on Peach's castle. This part always gives me at least a bit of goosebumps. In the past, we have joined forces with Bowser a couple of times, but never has it felt this cinematic. We take Bowser's airship to fly over to Peach's castle, but not without having to fight our way through these paper planes. This begins a shootout section in the airship's cannon and... Oh lord. This is kinda inappropriate, no? Like, you couldn't just do bullet bills or something? You gotta be this, gotta be bob-bombs? Okay. The gameplay of this part is a bit slow for my liking, from the pacing and the firing cooldown. Not my favorite part, to be honest, but it doesn't take away the cool factor of teaming up with Bowser to storm Peach's castle. We eventually eradicate those paper plane forces for good, except that's a lie, we actually didn't. They send the airship crashing down to the volcano, landing us in Hotfoot Crater. The plan is to escape to the surface, but more of Ollie's forces are onto us. We have this dramatic chase sequence up the volcano, with Kamek and Bowser Jr. sacrificing themselves to buy us some time. It's actually kinda sad. You can see Bowser Jr. looking back at Kamek, making sure if he's okay, and with the airship's cannon, we launch ourselves back to the surface. And now we're actually ready to storm the castle. Is what I would say, but the door's locked. Luigi thankfully comes in a nick of time to tell us that he does not have the key. He might have gathered this running gag of us finding Luigi for him to give us a key. He's been on a journey to find the key to Peach's castle, but keeps finding the wrong ones that so happen to be convenient for us at the time. And here he is telling us of his failure. But it turns out that the key was in his cart's exhaust pipe the whole time. That's amazing payoff, honestly. But hey, look at this. We're like 3/4 of Super Paper Mario. Well, I mean, it doesn't last very long. Origami Peach says we're just in time for the big transformation, and it's so epic, so dramatic that it once again needs to be pre-rendered. Thus, Origami Castle is born, the true final leg of our adventure. And what a final leg it is. From the rest of the world being constructed of paper mache, this castle is 100% origami. Even stuff like question mark blocks that weren't origami before. That and the gloomy blue color tone really sells how alien this place feels. And it adds a lot of stakes, knowing that this is what the whole world will look like if Ollie succeeds. He taunts us throughout the castle too, adding more obstacles and blockades. It's super dangerous too. It's infested with these giant fortune tellers that deal 100 damage. Even with the highest max HP, 2 hits from these guys and you're done. But what really sells this final part is, no surprise at this point, the music. An amazing rendition of the main theme that persists even during battles. It makes this final gauntlet hit all the harder. For Ollie's last line of defense, we have Stapler, the tool responsible for folded minions not being able to unfold. The final boss is a lot more gimmicky, so this feels like the finale to the traditional bosses, and it's a great one. It's about wasting as many staples as you can before it does this big attack of using all of its ammo on you. Getting enough jumps in from using the action bonus panel and luring it into firing more staples, you could have that ultimate attack do jack shit. It's a great final test of your strategic skills that you've developed with these ring bosses. Oh, and that finisher is brutal as hell. You pretty much break its spine. With him gone, the staple in Bowser gets loose, and he's back to his former glory at long last. And now nothing is stopping us from confronting Ollie. Well, except for Olivia, she's going through some stuff. Because, you know, her own brother attacked her with a giant stapler. It's kinda rough. We sit with her as she reflects on our adventure, thanking everyone who has helped along the way. And once again, Bowser has a very Bowser-coded pep talk. It's a very sweet moment, though I should note the music being played is called Olivia's Last Bench. I don't like the implications of that. Here we are in King Ollie's throne room, and man's been busy with making cranes for sure, but that's far from the worst of it. Peach's body is spread on the fucking wall like a window, and all the cranes in the room are actually folded from Toads. Because folklore has it that if someone were to fold 1,000 cranes, they get a wish granted. And in Ollie's case, he would wish to become ruler of the kingdom. Olivia is confused why he hates Toads so much, and Ollie reveals that he's doing all this because his creator scribbled all over the paper he was made of, viewing it as disrespectful. And in his words, if you've seen one Toad, you've seen them all. They're all the same to me.
That was really bad.
This would be the perfect time for me to bring up another one of Origami King's themes. So, this game tackles racism. I mean, for one, the villain's motivation is based on prejudice. He views every Toad the same way that he viewed the craftsman who scribbled on him. In his eyes, every Toad is the same as his ignorant creator, so they all need to pay for his actions. I'm not even digging that deep, that's just racism. And there's also been some subtle hints of prejudice throughout the game. At the beginning in the Whispering Woods, the talking trees are at first suspicious of us, simply because we're paper, just like the paper people that cut down their elder. And throughout our journey, as we associate the folded up minions as the bad guys, Olivia serves as a reminder that origami itself is not evil. It's just that these are spawns of one evil origami individual. And I think it's nice that they're teaching their target audience of kids that racism and stereotyping is no good. Do not be an Ollie. But if you want to get more tinfoil hat, I have a sneaking suspicion that this might also be a message pointed toward Paper Mario fans. Now, I could be reaching here, but I think Ollie's prejudice against Toads might be a calling out of how Paper Mario fans had criticized the modern Paper Mario games. You know, that every character looks so generic. So that must mean they are all the same, with nothing interesting to offer. Back when Paper Mario hate was in its prime, that was one of the most popular arguments against these new games. And it didn't help that before Origami King was released, there was this infamous interview where they allegedly had huge restrictions when making new characters in the Mario universe. I'm glad we finally seem to be out of that phase for Mario RPGs, but holy shit was that stupid. Like, I'm really happy with how Origami King was able to create something brilliant out of such creative restrictions, but it just feels bad knowing that there were so much restrictions in the first place. So choosing to cover this theme of not judging by appearances could also have been a way to convince its fans that they can still create strong characters even if we have to stick with Toads and minions. And personally, I think they proved themselves right. Also, I like to think it's real because just the idea of them making a villain who is a Paper Mario fan soy jack is fucking hilarious. Hey, editor's note here. I realized that I was implying here that Paper Mario fans are racists. I mean, you just gotta connect the dots, man. But enough of this meta commentary nonsense. You're here for the final boss. Like I said before, it's a bit gimmicky. It's not the standard boss fighting fare. Phase 1 has Ollie go through his own Vellumental forms, and you need to counter his attacks with Olivia's Vellumental forms. It stages some cool-ass kaiju battles, and again, the music is chef's kiss. But the execution and gameplay is honestly a bit mundane. It's also annoying how he heals HP if you take too long lining up the rings. This is getting hard carried by its overwhelming hype moments and aura, so I don't really mind too much that the gameplay is lacking, and the same applies to later phases. Olivia tries to reason with Ollie, but it only makes him more furious, and he refolds the fabric of space itself, and he transforms into that. However, Olivia says that this dimension powers up her folding techniques too, and so to combat Ollie, she folds Bowser into a giant version of himself. But Bowser says, "You gotta help us," putting the long-ass arms to one final good use by slamming the ground to push Bowser ahead. Avoiding the ninja stars gives you some cool action between magic circles. The thwomp that slowly prepares its fall on you is anxiety-inducing, and the music dynamically changes depending on who's on the brink. Again, in the gameplay department, this is about it. But the way it's all staged is enough to make it at least feel epic. But there is a third and final phase, where Ollie is now pissed and has his own long-ass arms. It seems like we're cooked, but Olivia says she can unleash this ultimate magic circle that she apparently learned at a point in time. Ollie won't just stand there, however. He scrambles the ring around and needs to realign it before the time runs out. And every now and then you gotta do some epic quick time events. The puzzle is fairly easy when you're level-headed, but the pressure can get to you. And I think it's neat how the final test of this whole game is the core mechanic of lining up rings. Once the circle is finally fixed, she transforms into a giant hammer and finally gets the chance to knock some sense into him. Let me tell you, it just feels euphoric after everything this little shit put us through. So overall, I think the final boss in Origami King is pretty good, but not spectacular. There's been better finales for sure, and it's definitely on the easier side, way more style than substance. It can be seen as very gimmicky, but I think it serves as different final tests for different mechanics. Phase 1 being for Vellumental attacks, Phase 2 for 1,000-fold arms, and Phase 3 for the rings. So if you didn't like these mechanics throughout the game, you might especially dislike the final boss. But as someone who doesn't mind them, I think I have a pretty good time here. It turns out bashing his skull in actually made Ollie come to his senses. A little too late, unfortunately. Before he kicks the bucket, he wants Olivia to tell him what the craftsman scribbled on him. And it was this. It was just a note that he wished for Ollie to be a good king. He was never disrespectful to him in the first place, so his mindset was even more misguided than we had thought. I'd always been confused about the writing of King Ollie. Like, why does he seem so intentionally dense? But as I've analyzed this game further thanks to this video, I think I now see their vision. As I've said before, Origami King's message is that a person is defined by how they act, not by how they look. And with Bobby being a walking explosive yet choosing to make a difference for the better, Ollie is meant to be the inverse of him. He was created with the best intentions to be a noble king of an origami kingdom, but that was contradicted by his malicious behavior. Someone who is created with dangerous intentions but acted in goodwill, and someone who is created in goodwill but had acted with dangerous intentions. It's still kinda dumb that he acted this way based on a bold assumption, but you know, there's something. Now, I've never analyzed the game philosophically like I have here, so excuse me if I've been sounding corny, but I just find it really astonishing to see a franchise that tends to not focus on narrative have such strong themes in their story. And I just find it especially important to highlight for a game that has the modern Paper Mario stigma and is not given enough credit when it comes to story. Being the only thing he can do to make up for his actions, he requests to be folded into the last crane for Olivia to make a wish. Only problem is she doesn't know how to fold a crane, but... Oh my god. Could you imagine if they broke in through the peach wall? The craftsman helps her fold up the last crane, and now she has a wish to make. After some thinking for a concerning amount of time, she wishes for everything folded by King Ollie to be undone. And so that's exactly what happens thanks to the wishing magic. At first, it feels like an easy resolution for everyone, but if you recall, it was King Ollie who had folded Olivia. So she's gone. No, I'm not bothered by that at all. With peace finally restored, we can now have the Origami Festival that we've been looking forward to in the beginning. One detail I caught while editing is that these shots of different parts of town are the exact same as the opening when it was empty and run down. That's just a really nice touch. Mario solemnly stares at the throne in the diorama where Olivia would have sat. It's not often you get to see Super Marcus show some sadder emotions. It's a very bittersweet ending. We lost some good friends on the way, but it's because of them that we get to see Bowser Jr. wearing a paper boat hat. And so everyone casts their lanterns into the air, some fireworks go off, and that's Paper Mario the Origami King. And goddamn, you sat through all of it? Do you need like food or something? I really love Paper Mario the Origami King. I'd go as far as to say that it's a masterpiece, well, to me at least. Of course, that's not to say it's without flaws. There's definitely some filler moments here and there, and the battle mechanics may have stuck with me, but it understandably won't for everyone, and that's because there are some issues with it. I just personally found a way to work around them. It also suffers a lot from its unstable economy. You'll have way more coins than you'll ever need until the late game, where they go out of their way to ask for tens of thousands of coins, and there's also some weird compromises of them trying to emulate certain parts of the classic games to try to appeal to those older fans, with stuff like the partners and the badges feeling pretty half-baked, but I don't think these problems justify an average or even slightly above average rating. I mean, with all those problems said and done, the world is addicting to complete, contains so much gameplay variety, one of the best soundtracks Nintendo has ever made, a genuinely fun take on boss battles, the paper aesthetic is taken to full advantage, has surprisingly mature themes for Mario standards, and just the humor. The game's pretty funny. Personally, I would rate this game at about a 9 out of 10. It's not perfect by any means, but it does way more things right than it does wrong, and I'm really happy to see this game's reputation get better over time. Some of that is thanks to the recent Thousand Year Door remake that satisfied a lot of fans, so it's no longer the symbol of where the series is at. In making this retrospective, I hope that Paper Mario the Origami King's legacy won't be that it's the end of a dark era for Mario RPGs, but that change in a game series doesn't have to be a bad thing, and that this new direction could offer something just as amazing. I think we should encourage change instead of wanting a series to stay stagnant. You already have those first two games if you want a traditional RPG, so experimenting in later installments will only help the series develop a wider audience. Experimentation is what gave us games like Super Mario Galaxy, Pokemon Sun and Moon, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, almost every 3D Zelda, and Mario Kart World. But on the other hand, you could also get a Mario Party 9 or Star Fox Adventures. It all comes down to the execution. When you want to experiment with your next game, you either get an Origami King or this piece of shit, but if it is possible to get a game like this, then I think it's worth it.
This is what the first letter of your name says about you. If your name starts with the letter L, you're just a bitch.